What is perfection? Does it even exist whilst you are on a weight loss journey? Welcome to our podcast, Fuck the Diet Cycle, with myself, Lauren Knight, and Abby Lodge. This podcast is for you if you're ready to end the diet cycle. So grab yourself a cuppa, get comfy, and let's jump straight into this week's episode. In my view, no, it doesn't. But Ab, what about you?
I 100% agree, but I think so many people come into a weight loss journey with this very black and white. They have to be perfect if they're either all in or all out. And then when they slip up a little bit, that's it, game over. But they fail to kind of look at the rest of their life and is everything you do in everyday life perfect? And what is the actual definition of perfect? Because give me someone that's perfect and I will kiss their feet, because nobody in this world, I don't care if they're skyrocketing millionaires, whatever, they're not perfect. But we have this perception that we have to be perfect no matter what. So, and that becomes such a toxic thing when you're on a weight loss journey. So, for example, you start your weight loss journey, all is going really, really well, and then you slip up, and that might be the most kind of minute slip up, like, for example, you have a biscuit that's not within your plan, that instantly signals to your brain you fucked up, that's it, game over. And you go, oh, fucked it now. I'm then going to spiral on and on and on and just keep going because you fucked it. But it's that same kind of saying as if you're going to start knitting like a jumper or whatever. You don't kind of make a bad stitch and then unravel the whole thing because you've made one slip up. And that's the kind of thing that we need to adopt when you're on a weight loss journey. Just because you have one slip up doesn't mean that this whole perfection thing goes out the window.
And also, with that in mind, if we throw in the towel every time we have a bump in the road, whether that be a big one or a little one, we are never going to get anywhere. And the chances are the progress that you made up to that point has now disappeared. For some people, it means they never, ever finished the journey. And for others, it just means that they prolong it and they end up having to follow that program or that plan for so much longer that just makes it harder. And it's not always just about a bump or a slip in the road. It can be something as simple as, I've got a family event coming up and they're going to a restaurant. Can't go, can I? Yeah, you can, because actually that's okay. You plan it ahead, you look at what you're going to do, we discuss the menu, and it's all going to be all right, because we don't have to be that constantly trying to make sure that every single calorie is on point, every single mouthful is directly to the letter of the plan. Having that meal is going to allow you to grow and flourish and learn that you can find that balance and control. So perfection on a weight loss journey just does not fit. It doesn't exist. It will not help you. And we need to focus on consistency instead. But what does that actually look like?
So consistency is, let's kind of do it from a mathematical, I'm not even mathematical, I don't even know why I'm bringing maths into this, but let's just go with it. For example, if there's 21 meals in a week and then you have a meal off for that restaurant or whatever, that's one meal out of 21. If you put that into a percentage, you are more consistent throughout that week of following your plan than you are of being off your plan. But so many people take that one meal as shit. Oh my God, that has just blown it out of the water and I can't do anything about it. Therefore, that whole day's got to come off plan. Then that next day, and then, oh, okay, well, it's the weekend, let's start again on Monday. When in reality, it doesn't matter about what happens every so often, sporadically, for example, these meals out, but it matters what you do every single day in the lead up and thereafter. What you do most matters, not what you do kind of every now and then.
And also, being on a weight loss journey, people put the pressure of the food aspect at the top of their list. So I've got to make sure I have X amount of calories. I can only have a certain amount of products. I can't do this. I can't do that. This isn't allowed. That's not allowed. But actually, that isn't necessarily what you should be looking at. And this is where me and Abby come in and use our experience and our knowledge the most. And it is about the mindset. It's the personal development behind your eating that makes all of that difference. And that's where consistency comes in. So journaling every day, reaching out and being accountable to us or whoever you're on plan with, making sure that you are watching the videos, using the tools that we're putting out there so that actually your behaviors around food becomes consistent. So if a slip up does come up, then you know exactly what you need to do to move on from that moment and not allow that to ball roll into something more, because actually at the end of the day, it's just a biscuit or it's just a stealing of a fish finger off your kid's plate. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your journey. And in the grand scheme of things, it's really not going to have a knock-on effect unless you don't learn from it. Obviously, if this is happening multiple times every single day, then that's a problem that we need to get into. But as a one-off, every now and again, you need to remember that you are human and you are not a robot.
Yeah, absolutely. But so many people think that you have to be a robot to be successful on any weight loss plan. It doesn't make, it doesn't need to be one-to-one diet. It can be anything. They feel like you have to adopt this whole perfection thing. And if you do have that biscuit or that fish finger, that everything's gone out the window. When if you think about it from like a calorific point of view, that biscuit or that fish finger, that those calories right there are not going to add to your scale weight or anything like that if you kind of take a step back from that. Okay, what led me to that? What led me to having that kid's fish finger? Was it just a mindless thing? Because let's face it, as parents, when you're on the way to the bin, there's nothing more appealing than a half chewed up soggy fish finger that you have to then shove in your gob. But it's about learning, like you said, learning from it, what led you to it, and then addressing what things we can put in place there, like going forward, so that it doesn't keep happening. But when it does keep happening all the time, that is when there is a problem. But so many people then think that that small amount of calories that they would have consumed within that biscuit or whatever is going to send them overboard, and then fuck it, I've already done it, so I will then contribute to, gaining weight and stuff, because I'm in that mindset of I have completely messed up. And I see a thing recently, and it was like, if you had like a box of chocolates and you drop one on the floor, you drop one, do you then go and then throw that whole box of chocolates in the bin? No. Why don't you do that? It's a waste. And it's the same. You have to adopt that same mindset with your weight loss journey. If you have one slip up, you then don't throw in the towel because your whole entire week has been a write-off. It hasn't. So think of the box of chocolates, guys.
Yeah, exactly that. And understanding that you are on a journey where you're breaking a food addiction. For many of us, we are addicted to food, whether you want to accept that or not. But when you do accept it, you become a little more lenient with yourself. And by that, I don't mean, oh, well, Lauren said that if we have a slip up, that's okay. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, when you are dealing with an addiction of any sort, it is never going to be perfect, because life happens, shit happens, but how you deal with those things is where it's really important. So, for example, I had a slip up 2 weeks ago, I think, and I am nearly 7 years into maintenance of losing 6 stone, right? So everybody looks at myself and Abby and goes, well, they never have slip ups. They're always maintaining, and like they must be perfect all the time. And that's not the reality. So I chose to share my slip up. Now, that slip up was triggered by having a reading that I've never had done before. And it unveiled a few bits and pieces for me to think about. And it knocked me, like it took me by surprise. And I didn't even go to what I used to turn to, which was chocolate. I decided to cook. I decided, but it wasn't
that for me. When you like said about that, I was like, what fucking person in a moment decides to cook food? Like, I know for me, if I'm slipping up, I am not cooking. I mean, I'm not a cooker anyway. We know this, but I'm grabbing something. I'm grabbing some shit out of the cupboards, and she cooked a Yorkshire pudding and some fucking sauce. I was like, what is wrong with her?
But I think that, like, on reflection, I think that was where I was still partially in control. So partially I was like, I'm not going to binge on chocolate. I'm not doing that. But it was still mindless eating. I still chose to make, like, so I was going to make cheese sauce anyway for the nachos we was having for dinner, but I decided to double that portion so that I could just spoon it into my mouth. And I made Yorkshire pudding batter. Like, it doesn't even go with the dinner we were having. And I just made a Yorkshire pudding from scratch and just fucking ate it from the tray. And, you know, so I ate it. And even whilst I was eating it, I was like, why are you doing this? Now, in that moment, I literally stopped myself and I was like, sort your shit out. Deal with the reading that you've actually had. Stop being scared of being uncomfortable, because that's exactly what it was. I didn't want to deal with the uncomfortable. So therefore, what did I do? I tried to hide that with the food, and it wasn't working. Of course it wasn't working, because as we know, food is not therapy. But what didn't happen was me thinking, right, well, I've gone on a bit of a binge here. Let's continue. I'm going to go for it now. Let's go all hog, because that's what I would have done before. And then if I was in that perfection mindset, that could have completely screwed me over. Whereas I was like, actually, do you know what? It's not worked. You're still feeling fucking uncomfortable. And now you feel really uncomfortable because you just ate shit. So I was accountable. I went straight onto my Instagram, put it out there for the world to see. That stopped me in my tracks. So I was like, well, every fucker's watching me now. And in that moment, I was able to use those tools for that personal development that myself and Abby are telling you to use all the time, so that when things like this crop up, you can sit there and go, okay, that was not perfect. That was far from perfect, but I can now put this in place. So I didn't physically journal, but I did have a discussion with Abby and we spoke about it. I obviously put it on my Instagram story. So there was that moment of reflection there. And that's what we are saying to you guys. When you have that slip, when you have that bump, or you're scared about that meal, sit and take a moment to reflect about, why is that impacting you so much? I was able to identify my trigger. I was able to notice the self-sabotage, and then I was able to stop it in the tracks, because I was like, no, this is not working and this is not what I want to be. And that's exactly where you want to get to. But I didn't get there out of nowhere. I did that because I had to work on my personal development through my weight loss journey. Just cutting your calories or consuming a meal replacement is not enough.
No, absolutely. You have to learn as you go. And I don't know if anyone else listening heard something that Lauren said there. She cooked a Yorkshire pudding and she ate it from the tray. We all know that when we are dealing with food and these better habits, that we are, you know, taking time with our food and actually putting it on a plate, for one, not eating it straight from the bloody oven, and sitting down and acknowledging that food, not literally ramming it in her face, which is what she did. But again, she's only learnt that because she's been through that. She's put in those steps and she thought, no shit, this isn't what I do. I need to work on what is actually going on, because at the moment all this food is doing is putting a plaster over my problem. I need to rip that fucking plaster off and I need to deal with actually what the problem is, because only the food's only going to add to my problems. And let's face it, as food addicts and as people who are recovering and have been in maintenance, something like that, which you know, it's quite a minor slip up, you know, it's not fucking massive, but she could have let that get to her, eat her up inside literally, and continued, and then before she knows it, she's back where she started. She's 6 stone heavier, and all from this point of she had a problem that she didn't want to acknowledge and she didn't want to actually feel those feelings. She was using the food, but She's done that work. She's been on that development journey and she has made those mistakes. Let's face it, guys, we have to make mistakes. When a baby, kid, whatever, is learning to walk, what do? They get up, they fall flat on their face, they get up, they take a few steps. Again, they keep making these mistakes and they're learning all the time. They don't just get up one day, fall over and think, oh, fuck this, I'm never walking again. No, and that's the same thing that we need to do with our weight loss journeys. Get up, fall down, dust yourself off, get up, fall down, dust yourself off as many times as you need to, because that is where the learning comes in. Anybody who says that they don't have problems, they don't slip up, you're fucking lying. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where that consistency has to come into play. The consistency of it being every 24 hours. Every 24 hours is a new day. What happened on a Monday doesn't have to repeat itself on a Tuesday. But by consistently using those tools that myself and Abby are putting out there, we know that they work. And whilst it might not feel like this podcast is changing your weight loss journey, or the ebooks that we're putting out there and telling you to read, or the journaling that we're asking you to spend 10 minutes on every day, or those calls, or the face-to-face accountability that we're asking you to show up to, it might feel like that we're asking you to do a lot, but at the end of the day, they are the tools for that consistency that's going to allow you to have those slip-ups that will not end your journey. So if you genuinely want to end the diet cycle and you want to know what it feels like to be living in a food freedom world, cut the perfection, because you're not going to reach it, but just opt for consistency instead.
Yes, I love that. Hope you enjoyed this, guys. Thank you for listening. See you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to follow us on social media using the links below. And don't forget, new episodes come out every single Sunday.